The mini who lived came to die. Avada Kedavra! Are you playing with your miniatures again? Do you know how many franchises you are mixing up right now? I can no longer tolerate this behavior.
Sir, I need to inform you that it is May the 4th. May the 4th is Star Wars Day. So you better have a video ready with an epic story so people can learn stuff from your experience.
Alright, guys, it's May the 4th. Time for an epic story, eh? Happy May the 4th, guys, and welcome to The Bear and the Brush. For this day, I painted a special miniature and got a little bit into Star Wars Legion. And I will definitely paint more of these minis, I really liked it. But for this day, I want to tell you a story about overcoming fear. I always feared using bigger brushes and always stuck to my size 0, 20, 30 and even smaller, which immensely slowed me down as a painter. I had to pick up paint for every third or second brush stroke even. I easily ruined these brushes, or I had to clean them because the paint easily went up to the ferrule because I picked up so much. I was afraid of the big brush, mainly because I thought I don't have the brush control, I lack the fine motor skills. I just was afraid of it. But it was the most heard tip I got. Use a bigger brush. Your blending will be easier. You will be faster because you can pick up more paint. You can control the paint better because there's a big belly on this brush that can hold the paint better and will flow easier off the brush. You will have an easier time. But I was too afraid to do it. So for the sake of this video and for a true inspiring Jedi-like story, I painted this miniature only with my size 2 brush. And now we will take a look at how this went for me. But one thing we gotta get rid of first, and that's this stupid clear thingy, make it fly looking, bleh, I hate it. So the simple solution was just some milliput and try to form a cloud of it. It worked fine. I may have went a bit overboard with the painting for that smoke thingy that is coming out of his engine pack, but all black base coat and then a nice dark gray dry brush for starters. And over that a lighter gray and an even lighter gray. To get some variations in, I dry brushed a light brown, but just from the top. Now comes the stupid part. I wanted to add some variations and the effect of fire inside the smoke, but it didn't go as I wanted to. I went in with some contrast paint, yellow and red, mixed them together in an orange and then applied a wash all over them. With a lot of tonal variation on that piece, I went in with a grey dry brush and a light brown dry brush from the top again. Hey you, do you want to buy amazing minis like this? Follow the link in the description to Kutami. It's an amazing hobby shop and they have everything you need. Of course I added the contrast paint with a pretty big brush, but that is like just slobbering paint on. I never really tried painting finely with a big brush. Even for base coats I always stuck to my little size 0, size 1, size 02 brushes. And I instantly felt so good when I tried the bigger brush. The base coat went on in just one smooth sitting and I could paint highlights for what felt like days. I don't think my previous way of painting was wasting time because I learned a lot using the smaller brushes. But when you have a decent big sized Kolinsky brush with a big belly and a really nice tip, you are getting so much faster. And while putting on base coat after base coat on this miniature, I really felt how much longer I could paint and how much less often I went back to my wet palette to grab new paint. But when starting to paint highlights, the difference really kicked in. I was able to paint so much more with the amount of paint I had in my brush. I could paint all the highlights I wanted and never had to get back to my wet palette. This was an amazing feeling. I could really focus on the painting. I had so much fun doing this. And goddamn, they hold glazes so much better. I often had issues with dilution of paint, but with a big belly, it really holds up all the paint and all consistencies that you want, and glazes went on like a charm. Since I was able to paint much faster, I got really interested in doing experiments. So I painted on really harsh highlights onto his pants and then went over with a glaze just to tie it together. And then I did it again. Really harsh highlights and then glazing again. And the transitions that came out of that looked so good. It was so worth it to try something new that I did this procedure on every part of the miniature. Hands, armor, whatever I could find. Even colors that sucked to paint like yellow went on like a breeze. It was so enjoyable. I painted one part, switched over to the next part, switched back, put a third coat on, and the colors looked fine, and it was so much less work because I wouldn't have to go back to my wet palette. So worth it. Alright guys, a big thank you and a big bear hug to all my patrons listed in this frame. I can't thank you enough for supporting me on this journey, and all the love you're giving me and all the kind words I get from you on the Discord are everything I need to keep doing this. If you want to join this crew of people, there's a link to the Discord. It's free. You can just join in, be part of the community. And if you want to support me, I got a Teespring shop, and of course I got a Patreon. There are some new tiers listed, so if you want personal feedback videos, or even if you want me to paint your miniature for a video, or you want me to join in coaching, because I'm an awareness coach now, I can coach you with your mental health or with your painting, whatever you want. Please feel free to join in and be part of the community. What it really comes down to is that you need a brush with a decent tip. And I was so surprised. Things that I would normally use a really small brush for went so easy on with a big brush. First of all, my paint didn't dry as I moved the brush towards the mini because there was so much paint in the brush. And I think that is where my training with the smaller brushes kicked in. If you are able to use your fine motor skills and just use the tip of the brush, you are golden. Everything plays in your favor. Stippling, small highlights, scratches in the armor, everything went on so smoothly. Of course, for challenging myself, I limited myself to the big brush. But I wouldn't do that for a normal paint job. I don't want to miss my really small brushes for painting eyes and stuff. And there are some parts on the miniature I could barely reach with this big brush, and I would switch to a smaller brush for some parts of the miniature. But for this challenge, I wouldn't need any other brush. If I could only choose one brush, I would go with the Raphael 8404 size 2. It worked perfectly for me. I haven't talked about my painting process for this miniature that much, but it's nothing special. I used a mid-tone and I toned it down with black. I did not want to use washes, that's why I started so dark. I then just took the mid-tone and painted in the first highlights, scratches, dings and whatnot. For some parts I mixed my mid-tone with a highlight color and did a second pass over it, and for other parts I just used my highlight color directly. It depended on the size of the part on the miniature. After all highlights were painted, I mixed glaze medium with my mid-tone and glazed it all over the part. That smoothed out all the transitions and made it look really well painted. For the engine fire I decided to use water, but that didn't thin down the paints enough, so the transitions were a bit harsh. So for next time I will use glaze medium everywhere I could basically. As a final touch, I stippled on some silver paint all over the metal parts on this miniature to make it look like battle damage. And here he is, the great bounty hunter Boba Fett, together with my final verdict. Fear limited me. Fear robbed me of a nicer experience. And I will try to never let that happen again. And please, don't let that happen to you. So all of this Star Wars stuff was part of a collaboration. I would really appreciate it if you could go down to the description and click on the link to the playlist and check out all the other creators like Realm of the Lich King, Nate's Minis, The Basic Brush, and Ninetail Hobbies. Thanks for watching, guys.